I am Dr. Cheryl Ziegler, and I'm so excited to be talking to Andy Seth today about elephant learning. So, for all us parents who aren't really that familiar, I thought it'd be a great idea to talk to another parent about a math app. And we are not only going to get to talk to a parent today, but also to his two adorable children. So, I can't wait. How are you, Andy?
I'm doing well. It's nice to meet you here.
I know, nice to see you here. So I'm just going to jump right in. How long have you been doing elephant learning?
So we started both of the kids back in July of 2019. So they're coming up on close to a year on the app. And for the most part, I think they've had like some fits and starts with it. There were times where we were like really engaged, and then truthfully, like I kind of forgot sometimes to put them on it, and then they would remind me, hey, we want to do elephant learning, and so then we get them back on. And but ever since we've basically been in this homeschooling situation, it has been a daily block of time, and so we've seen incredible results leading up to that, even in the first month, frankly. But now what's happened is like kind of mind blowing.
Okay, so let me set this up for people who maybe aren't that familiar with elephant learning and want to understand even how I'm involved with this. So I interviewed the founder of Elephant Learning. I think it was about week 2 of like pandemic lockdown. And of course, there was this huge demand for, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with our kids? And so I interviewed him. So I have the perspective of, the founder and the brains behind it. But to me, the missing link, like to really bring this to life, a follow-up are the kids and the parents. So I understand like fits and starts, and there's so many apps and even video games. So is this one that you felt like you kind of had to bribe your kids into doing at first, or were they interested from the get-go?
No, zero bribery. They were totally into it from the very beginning. And I think there's a lot of things that are in the game that make it like rewarding for them, because I notice what they pick up on, and like they are the ones that pushed me and told me like, Papa, we want to do elephant learning. Like we didn't do elephant learning today, like, cause I'll promise them sometimes. And so they're the ones that are really into it. There was zero bribery, and, our kids started at the time they were 5 and 3 years old. Okay, so Maya was 5, Tejas was 3. So it's not like they were all into math. You know what I mean? They weren't even into doing anything video games wise. To be honest with you, this is the only thing that they've done that's like a video game or a game, because we weren't really used to this, come last year, and they were 5 and 3. It's not like we had them all up on the devices.
So is 3, maybe you don't know this, I don't know, but is 3 the youngest? I didn't even know 3-year-olds would be doing this.
Yeah, I think as long as I think it might even be like 2 years old. I mean, I would start my kid on it as soon as possible. We had the 3-year-old on it, and there was no problem at all. You have to teach some computer skills, like click here, and this is what this means. But like, that's what your job is. You're a parent, right? Like you teach those things. But the math part of it, he got right away.
That's awesome. So they were 3 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's something called an elephant age.
Yeah.
So can you talk to me about what an elephant age is, and have you seen progression in their elephant ages?
Yeah, for sure. So Maya was 5 when she started, 5 years old, and her elephant age when she started was 6.3. So she, in our view, was about, a year ahead of her age based on her assessment at elephant learning. And the assessment is what determines the elephant learning age. And then Tejas was 3 years old when he started, and he was assessed at 3.5 years, which makes sense. He had basically the rudimentary knowledge that a 3-year-old would have. So the way that the elephant learning age is determined is an assessment based on what they demonstrate knowledge of. And it's actually, to me, way more accurate than the assessments we were getting in school. In school, we had very high-level categories based on observation. Elephant learning is not based on observation. It's, did your kid get it right or not? Pretty simple, right? And there's a long list of different skills being assessed. So you have granularity into what exactly did they know and not know at any given point in time. So while that was where they started, we always get that elephant learning age after every session. It's just part of the dashboard. And that is one of the most genius pieces to this game because two reasons. One is, as a parent, it tells me exactly where my kid is. But for the kids, that's what they sink their teeth into. That's their leaderboard. That's what they want to see go up. And actually, just today, we've already started math over here. I'm at the dining table. And Tejas has been working on division for, I think, 3 weeks now. So
Wait, he's 4? He's 4 years old?
He's 4, yeah. So he's been working on division for about 3 weeks straight. And it's question after question after question. And we've been teaching him and trying to explain the concept of division to a 4-year-old is a little bit challenging. But while you have this game, it gives you tools to be able to talk about it. Anyhow, just as we were like prior to this interview, he finished division and it bumped his score. And so he ran and told his mom and like, you know, he's super excited. He told, you know, I knew he was going to hit it today,
but that blows my mind. So for anyone listening, you need to be honest with us. Like, are your kids some kind of like little prodigies, or were you a math prodigy or something?
I'm Indian. No, I don't think, I wouldn't say they're prodigies. I think, and I'm not a prodigy in math. I think I've got a good grasp of math, but more than anything, this is 3 and 5-year-old math. This isn't complicated stuff. Anybody can do this.
But division is 3rd grade math.
Okay, fair.
So
I think division is still pretty basic, right? They're really into it. So I don't know how else to put it, but I think the little things like the elephant age, constantly seeing that go up is really motivating to them. That by far is the single biggest motivator. And then there's these other things that they do where when you get an answer right, this like it changes to a screen where an animation happens and it's like this, I don't know, success type of an animation. And like it tells them that you got it right. And it's like this unique little animation that they don't see otherwise unless they get it right. And that's positive feedback like right away. They're not having to work out problems for a long period of time. Each question is just one thing. It's just like they just have to figure out whether they get this answer right or wrong. They get 2 shots at it, and when they get it right, they get this little success animation thing, and they dig that too. You know, so there's like these little things inside of there. It's not nothing to do with prodigy. I think it's just they enjoy it because they're successful. If they're good at something, they're going to keep wanting to be doing it, right? If you are not good at something, you don't want to do it anymore. So anyways, that's I'm gonna interrupt. Look at him teaching. What happened, buddy? Tell us what happened.
Didi got 10 points.
You're not supposed to tell her hers. She wants to find out herself. See, she's covering her ears. So don't tell her age. What did you get? What's yours?
9.5.
You're at 9.5 now? Elephant age? Congrats, buddy. What'd you finish just now? What? You finished division and now you got 9.5? Great job, buddy. I'm proud of you. Good job.
Can I ask them a question?
Yeah,
maybe,
you want here.
Maybe not Maya right now.
Dr. Cheryl wants to ask you a question. Go ahead.
Hi, guys. I'm so proud of you. This is so exciting. You know what we're trying to do? We're trying to share with other kids and parents what you guys like about elephant learning. What do you like about it?
I like the different options and pictures they let us choose.
Oh, like the avatars? Is that what it's called?
Mostly they're like pictures.
Pictures. Wonderful.
Can you say that again without your hand in your mouth?
They're like pictures that you get to choose the first time, and then you get to like tap on them. They're mostly like different pictures that they show you.
Mm-hmm. Do you choose the same one every time or a different one?
Sometimes I choose different ones, but I used to only choose unicorns.
And so Maya, are you in kindergarten right now?
No, I'm in 1st grade.
Oh, because you just graduated or you did 1st grade this year?
I did 1st grade this year.
Oh, you did 1st grade this year. Wow. So tell me what you're doing in math right now.
Right now I'm learning about understanding fractions using collections.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm on right now.
Mm-hmm. So understanding fractions using collections. And what's the other subject below that you're working on too? Underneath it.
Introduction to the language of decimals.
Mm-hmm. Decimals, right. So you've already done division, percentages, right? Fractions, long division, and now you're working on fractions as a group, and then decimals come next. Yep.
Yeah. This is outstanding, you guys. This is so
Well, they say in elephant learning, they say outstung.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get a compliment our work if we get it right. They're like outstanding sometimes.
Because it is really outstanding and extraordinary is the way I would put it. Oh, fun. Anything else you want to share with parents or other kids about what you like about it, or if it's hard for you?
What's hard for me is sometimes the division that they're giving me. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, like, I don't understand the division. Sometimes I get the math problems wrong. Mm-hmm. That's mostly it. Like, the hard things are the division sometimes.
Yeah. Can you show your math notebook just so that you can see how she's doing the work? So maybe turn to a page that's full. And so you can see for each problem, just turn to the last page. Whatever you have there is fine. Previous page. Yeah, okay, so turn it around so that we can just see it. So what they do is they write into this notebook. There we go. Nope, don't go so far, right? So you can see there's different things in the notebook that she's writing. So she's writing all of the different equations down. And then, buddy, can you go grab your notebook? Put it down, please.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I have a first grader, and he is not doing any of this at all. He's doing addition with, 2 digits. That's what they're working on right now.
Yeah, this is the life hack. Elephant learning.
I think we're uncovering something. Let me see, buddy. Get it a little closer so we can see.
All right, there we go. You leave it there, buddy. I'll get it closer.
And again, this is preschool.
He's in preschool, yeah.
Unbelievable. And you guys think this is fun? Because that's the key for me. I'm a play therapist, so I like to make sure kids are playing and having fun.
One lesson is the more you practice, the more fun it gets.
Oh, really? That's true. You're probably excited for yourself when you get things, right?
Yeah, it's just so exciting.
Tejas, tell us one thing real quick. How hard did you just work at the division?
So hard.
Tell me about it. Like, what did you have to do? How long were you working on it? Hey, over here. What did you have to do for the division?
Work hard.
What did you do? Like, how long were you doing the division? Do you remember? He still wants to play.
I see his little eyes.
25 minutes.
Today is 25 minutes so far. But on average, they're doing a lot more than 25 minutes. We actually had to lift the limits off the game. Here, I'll put it back on me. We had to lift the limits on the game because it's recommended to do 20 minutes, I think, per day for like 3 days or something. They wanted to play it 5 days a week and for a full hour. So they go a full hour. So we had to lift the limits because the limits were just like a minimum recommendation. Sorry. They're just like a minimum recommendation just so that your kid doesn't burn out, right? But our kids were not burning out. So I contacted Elephant Learning, and support and just asked like, hey, is it okay if our kids do longer? They're like, yeah, absolutely. So we lifted the limits and they're doing, well, Tejas is doing the solid 55 minutes, not the full hour. We kind of give him a little break at the end, but I mean, he's the one that tells. And sometimes he's done after 30 minutes, like the division stuff. He worked on it for a solid 3 weeks. There were days where he was burned at 30 minutes and he was like, I'm done. And I'll say, okay, just do a couple more and then you can be done. And he would do his couple more and he'd be done. Maya has schoolwork math, and then we supplement the schoolwork with Elephant Learning because the schoolwork math, very frankly, is it's
pretty easy.
What is it?
Pretty easy.
It's pretty easy. So
it's what my son is doing.
Yeah, it doesn't take her very long to finish it. And so then we put on Elephant Learning. So she's really averaging probably 30 minutes because she has the other schoolwork to do too. But yeah, I mean, you can see her elephant age. Well, she doesn't want me to say it. Can you?
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you. Don't listen. 10.2. Right. You do. And
Done.
And Tejas is at 9.5. So, it's pretty neat. And hers will start to skyrocket here, I think, pretty soon. She's one of the cool things that Elephant Learning does. It has this dashboard that shows you all the subjects. So it's granular, like she said, fractions and groups. And it gives you a percentage of what percentage you're complete on that particular micro topic. So she has a lot of topics because the questions shuffle around, where she's 30% complete, 80% complete, 60% complete. And so as she finishes those up, her score will jump, but she's probably in 5 or 6 different subjects right now at any version of, I think they're all pretty much over 50% complete. So once those start to close up, the score will jump because she's doing 5 different topics at once. And that's kind of the cool thing, is that the system will shuffle you around, or you can click on one of those subjects and just keep working on that one. So sometimes, like with division for him, it was so hard and all the other concepts depended on it. We just had him click division every time. So for 3 weeks, he was getting fed division problems only. And it took a while to close it. But once he was able to understand the concept, now he can move into, what are you doing right now, buddy? Introduction to equivalent fractions, right? So now he's in fractions, but he understands the concept of fractions. I'm not even doing it with him, right? He's sitting there doing it by himself because he understands the division part. So there's ways that you can use the system to like help your kid be able to learn a concept and not get frustrated.
Yeah. I mean, I know that my mind is blown away. And I also sitting here going, oh my gosh, my kid, so far behind, it feels like. But I think the key for me always is that it's fun, and clearly they're having fun with it. Like they've figured out a way to make this rewarding. And so in psychology, we would say this is some sort of reinforcement system. They've got a schedule, almost like casino gambling, probably, where they get like a dopamine hit enough, though, that keeps them going. And then this is in a positive way, though.
Yeah, totally. And what I love as a parent is, think about that. Like it took 3 weeks for him to really grasp division. And for 3 weeks, he worked on a singular subject, which means he's learning the work ethic, right? Work ethic is something that, different parents may struggle with or not, but I think that's going to be one of the things that is key to our kids' success in the future. But to teach them work ethic when they have otherwise a pretty plush life, right? Like they don't have a whole lot of things they have to work for yet. They're 6 and 4. So like, this is a great way for them to have to work hard, have grit, and like stick it out. At the same time, they're the ones that want to do it. It's not like I'm pushing it. They're the ones that want it. I think it's teaching them a whole different life lesson. Math, great, but I'll take work ethic any day of the week on teaching our kids.
Absolutely. So do you have so in the way you guys have done it, did you roll it out that like you have to do it a minimum of 20 minutes a day for 3 days a week? Like, did you start there?
That's exactly how we started. It was 20 minutes a day, 3 days a week. And I will tell you, it was me who did not stick to the schedule. The kids were always asking and ready. And it was one of those like, well, when do we do it? It's dinner time. And what we found was you just have to plan the time. So right now it's daily from 1 to 2 o'clock Mountain. So from 1 to 2, it's math time. I stop work. I'll sit and teach if I need to. But for the most part at this point, they only ask questions. Our 4-year-old doesn't even like me looking at the screen. He just kind of like shoos me away and only calls when there's a question. He doesn't want me looking over his shoulder. So, I just think that the time was an important thing to like block off. Do you have a question? She's got a question on a math problem. Do you want to take a second to see how it goes, what that's like? All right.
Yeah.
You can judge my parenting. Let me move this over. Hold on.
No judgments.
Yeah, no, I know. All right, here we go. Okay, you're going to be recorded while we do this. What's up?
It says I have 10 polar bears. I need 4/5 of them. How many do I need?
Okay, so just so you guys can hear that, I have 10 polar bears. I need 4/5 of them. How many do I need? So that's what she's working on. Uh-huh.
Is that 10 divided by 5?
10 divided by 5, yeah, because that's 1/5, right?
Yes.
Which is?
2.
Right.
I answered 2.
Right, but they need 4/5 now. So if that's 1/5, 2 equals 1/5, what do you have to do to the 2?
Double.
No, you need 4 of them. So if you need 4 of them, what do you do to 2? Well, you have 1/5 equals 2. Okay. That means 2/5 will equal
4.
3/5 will equal
6.
4/5 will equal
10.
no. What?
8.
Yeah, 8.
Yay!
Okay, so that means that you had to multiply 2 times. How many times did we do that?
4.
So 2 times 4. So you do 10 divided by 5 to get 1/5. Now you have to multiply that by 4 to get 4/5. So multiply it by 4, and you get
8.
That's right. So write it down, and then you can put it over there. Okay? Got it. There you go. And that's it.
So I have 2 questions from watching that interaction. How do you feel like it would go if, I would say, probably the more average family is thinking, well, if I'm gonna get an app or get something learning, I don't want to be that involved. How involved are you?
Ouch.
I know. I'm just wondering. We got
I say ouch because like you're responsible for your kids' learning, point blank, period. So let's just nip the one thing in the bud right there. Like if you're trying to outsource education of your kid, what you put in is what you're gonna get. So like I'm just gonna say
talk about that. We outsource education all the time. That is what we do. We either pay for it or publicly it's provided. So I think that is the model that a lot of families
it is true in school, but this isn't in school. So what I'm getting at is this one, there is no one to teach you. I can tell you, for example, not to put them on blast, but like I emailed my 4-year-old's preschool teachers because they were basically like, wow, he's doing great math. And I was like, yeah, like they were saying, you know, is there anything we could do to help? And I was like, actually, like, here's a screenshot of the dashboard of Elephant Learning. Here's what he's learning right now. Here's like the different things he's passed, all the subjects he's passed, because it gives you a whole printout of all the things. He's working on division and multiplication at the time. Is there any way you could, in your, you know, one-on-one math sessions, help with that? And it was radio silence. So I'm just telling you, like, look, if you want your kid to do well, and there's school that is outsourcing, but when you're at home, you're not outsourcing. You've got to be involved. And like, it's just a question of what you want for your kids. So I just put that out there right away. Like I run a business. My wife works full time. You know, like we got a lot of stuff going on. This is a choice. So I'd say, first of all, know that. Second of all, know that teaching math is actually teaching language. This is something I never really understood, but I read the founder of Elephant Learning. He puts out a blog and puts out a lot of blog content. One of the things that I read about was how it's the language they don't understand. Once they understand the language, they understand the math. And there was a specific problem that I was hung up on. I think it was maybe with Maya, and I was asking about increase or decrease, or, you know, what's, if you increase it by 5, how much is it? Something like that. And she was getting stuck. And I was like, well, if you take X plus 5, what's the answer? She's like 8. I was like, well, okay, so you know 3 plus 5 is 8, but why don't you understand if you increase by 5? I was like, oh, do you know what the word increase means? She's like more. I said, is more plus or minus? She's like, I don't know. Oh, okay. The word increase means more, which means plus. Decrease means less, which means minus. Boom. Now it unlocked, right? And so like language is a thing. So understand that math is not really just about the numbers. It's about language. And I think that's a lot more accessible to people. People get really scared about, like, and have anxiety about math and numbers. Really, it's, do you have the language skills to teach them? And it's way easier to teach language, honestly, than to always have to come up with like the math. So that's part 2. Part 3 to me is you're not really sitting here teaching them all the time. I'm doing a full-on interview with you while my kids are sitting here, you know, he's over here. Go ahead. You can focus. They got their headphones on and they're doing their math, right? Like I'm doing an interview while they're doing it. I'm distracting, if anything. So it's not like you have to constantly be around. If they need help, they raise their hand or can call on you, and then you can come help. But I usually sit on the chair here, do my email, or do some reading, keep myself doing whatever work I would be doing. And if they ask a question, I answer it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think I really want to summarize some of the things that you said, because I do want this to feel accessible to, working
it's totally accessible.
So here's the interesting thing. So I come from a background of being very intimidated by math. I used to say, I'm not good at math. I've tried to change my languaging, but I will say it's something that I always struggled with.
Mm-hmm.
I had to work really hard. And at some point, the language of math just like surpassed me.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge strength of mine. So I feel like I was initially connecting to this idea of, interestingly, trying to spread the message to other parents, because I'm not somebody who's comfortable with math.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 3 kids, and my oldest is 100% what you just said is what is missing for her, the language of math. So I've been lately talking to her about it, and she gets good grades, but that girl she's not fluent in math.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, she must work really hard to get those grades. Probably like me, because I could even say to her, and she's much older than your kids, what's a quarter of? And she'll stare at me.
Mm-hmm.
50-50 will come up with the right answer,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not natural for her. And so I love that you're saying that even through an app, you feel like even if it doesn't overtly teach them, it prompts them to say, what does that mean? Increase, decrease. So I really love that.
Let me clarify one thing. It's not that the app doesn't teach. It actually does. It's just that you also will have to help clarify some things for your kids' language and understanding. The app, for example, if they're working on fractions, so it'll say, select 1/4 of these robots. They select it. Then the next screen will say, select 2/8. Okay? Then they'll select 2/8, and they have to figure that out. And then the next screen will say, before introducing the next problem, it will say, 2/8 is another name for 1/4. And then it'll say, now select 25% of them. And then they'll select it, and they'll say 25% is another name for 1/4. And so what it's doing is it's not saying they're equivalent. It's not trying to get into, like, here, reduce the fraction down to its simplest form from 1/4 to 2/8 to 1/4. It's not doing any of that. It's just another name. And so all they're having to do is go, oh, okay, it's just another name. Eventually we'll teach them why it's equivalent, but why introduce a concept that's so hard? But this is the problem that people have with math. I think even instruction, very frankly, like, they jump ahead to words that the kids don't understand. They don't need to know that it's equivalent. They just need to know it's the same thing. 1/4 is the same thing as 25%, is the same name as 2/8, is the same name as 4/16. Like, that's all they need to know right now. It's just another name.
Yeah. I feel like it's so hopeful and inspiring. And I feel like where we are at today with, starting to wrap up school in some parts of the country, wrapped up already, here in Colorado, where we both are, which is, we know that next year, we know education has changed for an unknown amount of time.
For sure.
Right. And I feel like I know that I really homeschooled, like you said, I really homeschooled my kids the past 3 months. I learned a lot, but I know where I'm going to need help. I'm going to need supplements that can't be found on a Zoom call. I think there's such fatigue there. And so this has been so even exciting for me to just think, I'm going to get my kids going on this. Hopefully they'll be excited like yours. And hopefully, they're going to really have a love and not an intimidation around math, but a love for it, and playing with numbers. And that's the biggest thing, is just like the self-confidence around being good at math. I think can't be said enough.
Totally. And actually, I'll say that, it's these things like kind of come to me as we're talking, but inside of the app, there's a section in there that shows you all the things that your kid, the progress they're making on each subject. You can try the different questions out yourself, but there is this whole section of here are some things that you could be playing with your kid or teaching your kid offline, like outside of the app. And one of them, for example, like, we taught the kids war with cards, right? Like a pretty basic card game. They like that, but then we taught them blackjack because there's a little bit more math involved with blackjack. They love blackjack. love blackjack. So there's like suggestions in there, not just that, there's actually more granular suggestions, but because they can pinpoint with accuracy exactly what your kid knows and doesn't know, they can spit out and say, here's the things to play and work on with your kid. And then they'll progress inside the app. There were days, for example, I didn't mention this before, but there were days where I knew like they're having a hard time with the concept. Hey buddy, you got to stay. Okay. Don't just he keeps telling you the scores. Yeah. He's very competitive. You didn't listen. Good. He keeps getting up and telling her, here's what I'm at. But it shows you like, here's all the things you can do because it's so accurate, pinpoint accuracy. Like it can tell you here, work on these things. There were days where I would say, okay, today, like I'm going to get out some coffee beans and we're going to split the coffee beans. Here's 12 coffee beans. And I would teach them with coffee beans. If you divide this by 2, there's 2 people. You and your brother get 2, divided by 2. I'm going to divide these 12 by 2. How many do each of you get? And so I would use like little props, but that came from suggestions inside of Elephant Learning. And then once they understood what we were doing physically, then we would get back into the app and then they would be able to they would understand the concept right away.
Oh, I love that too, because I do feel like there's so much math and so many games and, not everybody's like thinking about that. Oh, if I play this card game with my kids. So I love that. I didn't know that it gave the real world.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I shouldn't have said like, you have to do it all. I just am a big believer in saying like, you're the one that's accountable, but the app doesn't just quiz your kid. It does teach your kid, and it does some pretty tricky things to teach your kid. I'll give you an example. There's this one game or an activity where these curtains open for, I don't know, it's quick. It's maybe 3 or 4 or 5 seconds. Curtains open and then it closes and it asks you how many of the thing were in that. And there's a point early where they can physically count, but then it becomes like a row of 5 and 9 rows. There's no way they can physically count. So they actually, and the thing will say there are 5 in a row. How many are there? Open, 1, 2, 3, 4, close. And they have to count the number of rows and do 9 times 4. And they get it wrong for a while, and they get like, they're like, oh, like it's too fast. So we have to teach them, look, they already tell you how many in a row, count the number of rows, and this is multiplication, and this is why this works. Da-da. So what it does is it forces understanding. It's not just like, could they have opened the curtain for 30 seconds? I'm sure they could just program it that way, right? Like, it's intentional. You can tell the intent behind it was, no, we're trying to teach your kid that they can't just count. They have to find a different way to solve this problem. And that's how they started to pick up on multiplication and how it relates to addition. It's like stuff like that. Like, how are you, I don't know. That, to me, the genius is in the simplicity, but that decision right there was a big decision because it was frustrating for my kids and they had to find a new way to answer that question.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. This has been so helpful and enlightening. A totally different interview for me than even talking to the founder. I really feel like I can imagine, okay, how's this going to look in my house? Where are we going to sit in my house and do this? And like you said, I could just sit at the table with them and have my laptop out and be doing my work and just be available. Mm-hmm. I love that. Anything else that you would tell people who are checking this out or, wondering what they should do to help their kids with math?
Yeah, I guess I was a little bit skeptical when I started it. And so I would imagine if people are kind of skeptical on it, there's options. Like if you either have to catch your kid up or you're trying to get them ahead, the options are kind of similar, right? There's places like math centers that you can take your kid to. There's one that, what is it called? Math gymnasium or something like that, where like it's some hundreds of dollars a month or whatever. And like the kid's basically playing all day and they call it math. Like there's just nothing. And I know I'm sure people at Elephant Learning will see this, but like it's underpriced. Like there's just nothing that I can say. It's 35, 40, 50, whatever dollars a month it is. And we have 2 kids on it. It's not even like they charge per kid. I would have paid way more for the progress that they're making. And I think that the skepticism is backed by like this whole guarantee. That's kind of what made me go, I'll check it out. It's guaranteed. Literally, you you cannot lose on this. You cannot lose. Like, it is the best way. Our kids are my 4-year-old is at 9.5 elephant age. All right. My 6-year-old is at 10.2.
10.2.
Right. So I'm just saying, like, it works. That's all I can tell you. It works, and it's the lowest cost thing out of all the options. It's mind-blowing because you could spend hundreds of dollars and not get this. You wouldn't even get the assessment. The assessments alone, to know what your kid knows and doesn't know, are you kidding me? I'd pay for that alone for the price of this tool, just to know where they're at, truly where they're at. The report card stuff is, you guys know, like, it doesn't tell you everything because they can't possibly assess everything. This thing tells us with pinpoint. Frankly, I wish we had this for every subject. Like, if they hear this at some point, I hope they expand to every subject, because there's no better way of learning. This is an easy way to teach, and they love it. Like, what else do you want?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you and your cuties
Sure.
for sharing that with me and with any parent who's going to listen. I know that I'm personally inspired to go home tonight, have a little family meeting, and be like, okay, it's summertime, and here's how elephant learning is going to fit into our summer. So thank you so much for letting us in your house.
I'm a big fan of this, so I'm happy to talk about it all day.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thank your kids from me. They are adorable, and so cute to hear from them.
Will do. Thanks. Take care.
Thanks, Andy. Bye-bye.